Hello everybody, welcome back to the Girl Chats. We are having a cozy session today, hence the fluffy pajamas, because it is so cold right now. As usual, I'm going to be going ahead and answering some of your dilemmas that you sent in to me over on Instagram. I try and do these videos once a month-ish. Somebody asked, brutally honest advice on pulling yourself together and being productive to achieve your goals. Okay, so this is a really good time of year to be looking at your goals and things, especially as we are very quickly headed into a new year. I actually cannot believe how fast time has gone in terms of pulling yourself together. If you want my brutally honest advice, the situation that you're in, you could very easily just be living that life for the rest of your life. And if that's not where you want to be, you are the one that's going to have to make the change. You are the one, and only you are going to be able to change the trajectory of your own life. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's spoon feeding you anymore. Once you leave school, you leave education and you become an adult, it really is all up to you. And I've also learned a lot of lessons in this in my adulthood, of that self-motivation and having to actually figure out how to push yourself even when you don't really feel like it. Now, don't get me wrong, there is plenty of room for rest, and I really do advocate for taking rest, and that's something that I never probably would have said maybe a couple of years ago, because I was so convinced that all you need is like grit, hard work, determination. You do have to put in hard work. However, what I will say is strategy also goes a long way, and thinking smartly also goes a long way. You can't really expect to just bury your head in a book or bury your head in the sand and hope, okay, I'm just going to do all these tasks and I'm going to work really hard, and like then things are just going to happen for me. Also doesn't work like that. You have to combine a lot of things. You have to combine your grit and hard work with your strategy, really understanding where am I going to go, what action do I need to take to get there. I can't be affording to waste time doing random actions. So if you want to know how to like become your most productive self and get stuff done, just know that your life and how it is, and all the complaints that you have, and all the hardships and the things that you don't like that you still have to do, all of that is down to you. It's down to your choices. And I know that people don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear this idea that, oh, I'm in this sticky situation because of myself, because of the decisions that I've made for my own life. And even if you have been forced into a situation that you feel you had no control over, you still have choices over where you go next. You still have the choice to turn a new page in your book and actually realize, okay, well, I'm in this sticky situation, it wasn't my fault, but where I head now is in my control. Like, I can make things happen for myself. You have to believe that. If you believe that you're a victim of your own life and none of your choices are your own, and life is just happening to you and you can't control it and everything is just like out to get you, guess what? Everything is going to be out to get you. Everything is going to go wrong. Everything is going to be how you don't want it to be, because the more of what you feed yourself, that's more of what your reality is going to play back to you. You are meant to go through things as part of life. We all go through rubbish, but we all also have a lot of choices as to where we end up next. And the moment you start believing that you don't have a choice and you make excuses, you reject responsibility and accountability for your situation, that is the moment that you're going to find yourself in very miserable situations. And guess what? Things are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. So if you want to achieve those goals, just know that you can. You're in full control. You just have to act smart, and you also have to work hard. I remember starting out when I first got my grad job. I used to work my grad job, obviously. I also was studying for certain exams as part of that role, and I wasn't even allowed to stay at the firm unless I passed those exams. So that was an extra responsibility I had. When I clocked off at the end of the day, on my weekends and my free time, I was studying for 1 or 2 years straight for these exams. At the same time, I was running all of my social medias, all on my own. I was learning it all from scratch. I was also trial and erroring everything. I was sending all the emails by myself. I was managing my own inbox. I was managing all my content. I was doing all of that while working my 9 to 5, which was actually very many more hours than a 9 to 5. I would sometimes leave the office at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I'd also be in a lot earlier than 9 a.m. and then I had the studies on top and I had exams to do, and I had to do that while knowing the risk of not passing that would be losing my job. So there was a lot of pressure on those exams. It wasn't just something extra. There was a lot riding on them. I did all that and still did my socials because I wasn't earning enough money from that job to do the things I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to move out. I wanted to get on the property ladder. I had hundreds and hundreds of pounds coming out of my account even while I was living at home. So it wasn't enough for me to be on this 20k salary and be able to do anything with it. I had to strive for more, and I had to figure out how I was going to earn more, and those are the kind of goals that I set myself, and it was hard work. I remember I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning every single weekend to film all my videos for my content before my family would wake up, because then there'd be so much noise in the house and I couldn't do it when everyone was awake. And then I would go ahead and study the rest of the day, and then I'd be at work the rest of the week. Like, it was relentless. But when you have goals that you set yourself, and if you want a certain lifestyle for yourself, you've got to put the work in, but you've also got to know what you're working towards. I knew what I was working towards. I knew what my goals were. I wanted to buy a property. I wanted to earn more money, and I wanted to move out. That was what was driving me. So I didn't let anything hold me back. I didn't give myself a choice to fail. And I think that's what you have to remember when you have goals that you really, really want to achieve. If you think there's an option that you could fail, well, guess what? Your chances are now 50-50 instead of 100%. Whatever you want to believe about your situation, it is true. So if you believe you can't achieve it, guess what? You're right. If you believe you can achieve it, guess what? You're right. Okay, I spent quite a long time on that dilemma, but I hope that helped, and I hope it wasn't too brutal. I don't want to be too brutal with you guys, but it's sometimes a bit of tough love. Okay, let's move on to the next dilemma. So this one says, how to make friends when you're a sensitive person and no one seems to understand your feelings. Okay, so this is interesting because friends love to joke about, and it's totally fine, but if you are genuinely getting hurt by the things your friends are saying or doing, and they know that, and they're not making any effort to change that, that's a deliberate act. They're deliberately trying to make you feel a type of way, and they're deliberately trying to hurt you at that point. I don't like the idea that people like brush stuff off as like, oh, you can't take a joke. If the things are hurtful to you, then they're hurtful to you. But that doesn't mean there won't be people out there that will actually like recognize that, or just won't make those jokes or rude comments or whatever it is that you're being sensitive about. Go into new situations with an open mind, with new people, and just be open to the idea of making friends with people, but also be open to the idea that not everyone is going to be your friend. Not everyone's going to understand you. Not everyone is going to respect your feelings, unfortunately, but that's the difference between someone who's a friend and who's not. You can meet new friends in the same way anyone else would, but your criteria for selecting someone as a friend and choosing them to be a friend will just be slightly different based on your preferences and based on how you want to feel around your friends, and that's totally valid. One thing I've learned in my 20s is that you're not meant to get along with everyone. Younger me would have been so confused by that phrase and would have been like, what do you mean? Everyone has to like me, because if they don't, then like I'm just unlovable, and then that means nobody likes me. I find it crazy how I used to think that like I could please everyone and that I could get everyone to like me, and if they didn't, that was an inherent problem with me. No, we're all very, very different people. We've grown up different ways. We've had different experiences. We have different opinions on the world. Some people are racist, for goodness sake. Are they gonna like me? No. So does that affect the quality of the person that I am and the value that I have? No. When you look at it like that, like obviously that's an extreme version, but there's versions like that that exist. Like, not everyone is gonna like you, and that is fine. You can't change that. I'm not gonna go and try and convince the next person to stop being racist so that they start liking me. That's none of my business. So in the same way, if someone thinks you're too sensitive, if someone is not regarding your feelings and they think that, oh, well, you should just deal with it, no, turn the other way and go find people that actually want to respect your feelings and understand where you're coming from, because there will be people out there, but you just haven't met them yet. Okay, so the next one's a bit of a long dilemma. I got a DM sent, so I'm going to read it all out to you and then we'll discuss it together. Hi, I feel like this topic would not only help me but so many other South Asian girls. Is it better to go for a financially stable guy who is less likely to be emotionally intelligent, or the guys who will probably have the emotional intelligence and be supportive but isn't as financially stable? I'm about to graduate as a doctor in the summer, inshallah. I feel as though guys in my profession are more arrogant, big-headed, which is very off-putting, and the guys who are non-medics make me feel as though I will be doing way better than them financially and it almost gives me the ick. Any advice at all would be amazing. Do you know what? This is a topic and a half, because the idea of a man being a provider is very important, especially in our religion. That is the man's role in your life. That's not to say that the wife isn't going to spend money on him or take care of him in other ways, but he's the provider. He's meant to be the leader of the household. So that is still an important factor to consider amongst all of this. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, guys, I really don't think you should underrate the value of emotional intelligence in a person. Like, if someone is arrogant and big-headed, best believe, like, you could end up in a very miserable marriage, but still be financially well off, you know, live in a pretty house and, you know, have all the material things. But then if you don't feel connected to your partner because they don't have a nice personality, then is that the lifestyle you want? It's a bit of a like would you rather situation, and both of the options are like not quite ideal, because as a woman you want to feel protected. Like, if you're going to go into a relationship and this man is not financially stable and you're doing better than him, but then you both see yourself having kids in the future, so you have to take time out of work, and then how are you going to afford to pay for your lifestyle if he's not really earning enough money for it? Plus now you're out of work because you've just given birth and you're recovering, and now you've got kids on top, which is an extra expense. Like, there's so much you need to think about. It's not really as clear cut as, okay, well, he's emotionally intelligent, so tick. They both matter, they're both important. But what I will say, I feel like the character of someone is so important, not necessarily what they have right here, right now. If you have the character of a person in front of you that is really hardworking, they try with all their might to increase their income and provide for you, even if they don't have that much, they still have those instincts to like provide and protect and giving that husband material. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if they don't necessarily have the means to do it right now, that is the kind of person that will make it in the future. Like, they will make sure that they get to that place where they can genuinely provide for you, and they're going to be the breadwinner, and they're going to be the ones that are earning more, and you will feel secure financially. But then also they'll have the emotional intelligence because they had it from the beginning. You don't have to teach them to be emotionally intelligent, so it's a win-win situation. But this will only work, and I would say only get in this kind of situation, if you are really convinced that this man is a really hard worker and this man is aiming to be your provider, and if this man really will stop at nothing to like reach that goal of, you know, earning more money and being that role in your life eventually. Because if he's not really giving that energy, then I would be a bit concerned. And some people might not like to hear that, but if your man is not gonna provide for you, like, why are you getting married then? Like, there's no point. Stay single and provide for yourself. If you're going to provide for yourself in either scenario, I'd rather be single than provide for myself. The thing is, the money isn't just what makes a man a provider. For a man to like be a provider in your life, he can also provide security and make sure that like you feel safe, and the emotional intelligence does come into that as well. So he can still be a provider even if like what he has to give you right now is that emotional intelligence, and that should really be like the standard. I think if someone doesn't have that, then that's that you're just asking for a difficult life, to be honest. And I feel like in this day and age, when we are so aware of the meanings of these things and how they can impact your life, and the fact that, okay, well, if he doesn't have that emotional intelligence, this is what my life could look like, and this is the kind of struggles I'm going to have with this person. You already know that off the cuff now. We've heard enough about these terms, being emotionally intelligent, being self-aware, all this self-development stuff. Like, we all know it now, and we all understand what position you're going to end up in if you still go ahead and go with someone that has not leveled up in that area. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So, how you dealt with conflicts in relationships, especially in the beginning and the progress. So I think with conflicts, like, it's so normal and natural to have conflicts. I think you'd have to just very quickly establish what each other's communication styles are and how it differs from yours. I feel like that is something that I took a long time to figure out, and it took me a long time to realize that, like, just because the communication style was different doesn't mean that someone's like deliberately trying to disrespect you or like be rude. that's just like how they process certain situations. Like if an argument gets heated and one of you wants to storm out and doesn't want to talk and just like wants to leave it there, but the other one wants to talk it out and wants to continue the argument and, you know, like come to a resolution then and there, one of them is not being like disrespectful to the other. They're each just like got their own ways of dealing with situations like that. And it's only when you realize that and you realize like, oh, they're not trying to be problematic by doing that, that's just like their coping mechanism, and that's just like what they're used to even doing in situations like that, then you start to like take things less personally, and then you start to be like a bit more objective about conflicts. And when you're more objective about situations that are like very highly emotional, it just makes it a lot easier to deal with. And then one thing that's also really helped is learning attachment styles. So since I learned mine and Sunny's attachment styles, it's really helped me understand like the reason for my own thought process. When I start feeling like an argument's brewing inside me, and when I'm getting like really annoyed by stuff and I'm wanting to pick a fight and I'm wanting to start an argument, the way I start an argument and the way I communicate things and the reason I'm annoyed by things are so rooted in my own attachment style. Like the way I pick up on things, the way I catastrophize things. It's just that entire process of like being in conflict or like feeling certain emotions, or when you're not happy about certain things, like how you then deal with that. It is so linked to attachment style. So I really recommend reading the book Attached. I think it's just called Attached by, I can't remember the name, but I'll try and put an image on the screen of the book that I read, because that was really helpful. It has a little quiz in there as well where you can actually like go through it and determine your own attachment style. And then in the rest of the book, it goes through each attachment style and explains like how they behave, why they behave that way, what it looks like in a relationship, if you're in a relationship with a different type of attachment style, what that relationship looks like, if it's likely to be a successful one, what things you can do to like mold better in your relationship if you're different attachment styles. But the idea really is to become a secure attachment style. Like everyone should be secure, but a lot of us are insecure. So when I learned that I had an insecure attachment style, then I started trying to figure out, okay, well, what would a secure attachment style person like behave or do in this situation? And that's helped a lot, because when you are coming from insecurity, when you're coming from a place where you're not acting emotionally intelligent, then lo and behold your arguments are gonna like drag on and you're just gonna get in more conflict and things. And nobody likes to talk about the fact that like they have to go on a journey themselves to become more emotionally intelligent. We talk so much about like, oh, but is my partner emotionally intelligent, and are these people around me emotionally intelligent? What about you? Are you sure you're emotionally intelligent? Are you sure that you deal with every situation in the right way, and do you have a secure attachment style? Do you approach situations in a secure way? Like, how are you dealing with your emotions? Because I can guarantee you a lot of us will look at other people and go, oh, they're not emotionally intelligent, but hello, neither are we. So that's something I learned. You eradicate issues because of your attachment style. It's actually crazy. A lot comes down to that. So if you're in a relationship, that's a really important thing to kind of nail as soon as you can, really, to avoid issues. If you nail your attachment style, and if you nail like the communication, that also links into the attachment style, and that's why you communicate that way, then you will really have a much easier time like dealing with conflicts. Like conflicts are always going to come up. You're always going to have things that you disagree on. Like, goodness me, you're two different people, you've been raised two different ways, and you've had different experiences in life. Of course you're going to have a differing of opinion, and that is not a negative thing. It's not a problem to disagree with someone, but how you deal with that differing opinion, and depending on the context and like how that's impacting your life, that is where the issues kind of stem from. But if you sort the attachment style out, because when you get in a conflict with your partner, it goes way beyond, okay, we have a differing opinion. Now it's like, oh, now we're in a fight, are we gonna break up, and like, is he gonna leave me, and like there's all these other things, or maybe I want to leave them now and I want to sabotage the relationship altogether. There are all these like extra layers that come into it because you're in a relationship with this person. You don't really think about when you're, you know, arguing with a sibling or a friend, because at the end you do know like, oh, well, we'll get over this fight and we'll be friends again, or we'll be siblings again, because we have to be. In a relationship, we catastrophize things a lot more, because it's like, well, now should we not be together, or are they going to leave me? And depending on your attachment style, you will feel these extra fears that will lead on from that conflict. So again, that really does help solve a lot of the problems when it comes to relationship conflicts, especially in the beginning. I feel like the sooner you crack the code on your attachment style, and both of you are aware that if you're not secure, you need to bring yourself closer to it somehow, then you'll be set. You'll be so good. Okay, let's do a last one and then we're gonna wrap this up because I've been talking for a really long time. So someone says, I'm 26 and mum controls everything from what I wear to what I say. Brown parents, by the way, and I've tried to sit and talk to her and she outright refused to listen. Won't let me out the house if I'm fully covered. Girl, okay, I'm gonna answer this because you've given me the context of you being 26, so I'm gonna answer this speaking to you as a 26-year-old. Do whatever you can to move out. And I say that knowing that it's difficult and knowing it's not the most simple thing in the world to just like leave, especially South Asian parents' homes, but even like financially and logistically, like it's not always that easy, but it's possible. And I think if you're at an age where you're late 20s at this point, maybe mid 20s, past 25, your frontal lobe's developed at this point, like you are a fully developed human being. There is no reason why you can't put your foot down and do what you want to do. Now, I'm not saying like move out if you don't want to move out, okay? If you don't and you want to be there but you just want more freedoms, you've just got to start behaving like an adult. Like, it sounds silly, but I feel like when you do live in your family home, it's very easy to be seen as a kid and as someone that's inferior and doesn't know what they're doing with their life and is immature and naive to things and like needs to be told and needs to be like, this is how you live your life and this is what you should do. And a lot of the times they're doing it because they have your best interests at heart and they want the best for you. But then a lot of times they're doing it because it's an element of control and they want to control you and they want you to be a little puppet. And a lot of parents do see their kids as extensions of themselves, so they will deliberately try and mold their children to be this like very perfect picture so that they can show everyone, look how perfect my kid is. Now that means I'm such a great parent, and now everybody look at me and see what a great parent I am and see how well I have molded this perfect human being. Not realizing that you're real, like you're not a statue and you're not a picture frame on a wall that people can just stare at and be like, wow. And you're not like a trophy and an award to win. You're a human being with feelings, with ambitions, with, you know, your own opinions on your own life, and that is okay. With that being said, you've just got to kind of break away from the idea that you have to do as you're told, because I'm sorry, at that big age, at 26 years old, your decisions in your life is your own at that point. You're old enough to get married, you're old enough to have your own kids. Even if you don't have those things yet, you're old enough to do them, which means you're old enough to pick your own outfit for the day. If you're being controlled in what you wear, what you say, what you do, where you go, you need to leave and create a space for yourself where you can do those things without any input from anyone else. And it's not the easiest thing to do. I know that firsthand, but it is a necessary step. I really just wish that all brown girls especially got the opportunity to like move out and live by themselves before marriage, before everything else. I just really wish that that was like more normalized, because I think it's such a necessary part of growing up, to have your independence, to like understand who you are. If you've gone to the age of 26 and you're still being told what to do, what to say, how to behave, how would you even know who you are? I get that as parents, you're protecting your kid. You don't want them to say the wrong thing. You want them to get the best job so that, you know, they're secure for their future. You want them to have the best chances of finding a good partner and being able to settle down and all these things. I get that. I get that if that's the intention, but at the end of the day, everyone is on this planet to make their own choices, to make their own mistakes, to learn from them, to grow. There is no growth in a person who is constantly told what to do, how to be, where to go, what to say. There's no growth there because they don't get to use their own brain, and they just become dependent on being like so conscious of like, okay, but what is the right, what do you think I should do then, or what's the right thing to do, or what are they going to say if I choose to do this? And they won't trust their own decisions, is what I'm trying to say. You're teaching kids to grow up, to not trust themselves, trust their own decisions in life, to not grow as individuals and actually like have a life. It's infuriating. It's really, really infuriating because it's clear as day, and the intention might be good, but the result isn't. Like, even if you get your kid in the top job and they get married and they're successful in all like the external ways, you're still teaching someone to not trust their own judgment, to be miserable in their life as long as everyone else thinks they're successful and as long as they look good in front of other people. You're teaching them that their wants and needs come second best. You're teaching them to be chronically anxious about the things that they do or say because what if it affects someone else, and constantly putting themselves in someone else's shoes and not ever living for themselves, and not ever giving a second thought as to like, what do they actually want to do with their own life and what is actually going to make them happy. God forbid they are happy, because if they do something that makes them happy, that might mean that everybody else is really, you know, unhappy with them and they've chosen the wrong path and they've said the wrong thing and they've done the wrong thing, and how are we ever going to live with that? The only advice I have for you in situations like that is to remove yourself from the situation. If you're 26, hopefully you've got a job, you can save up money on the side. Like I spoke earlier in this episode, I didn't have enough money for my full-time job. I had to do side hustles and I grew my socials. That was my choice, but there's a million other things that you can do as extra money. I remember even my socials weren't making me money, so I actually went and applied for a tutoring job to do on the weekends, which was an hour away from my home, and I was going to travel there back and forth. So I was going to do my 9 to 5, I was going to study, I was also going to do my socials, and then for extra money, because I didn't have enough, I was going to tutor kids on the weekends. The only reason I didn't end up doing that job is because it wasn't physically possible, but I tried because I knew that I had a goal. I knew what I wanted and I knew I needed to make it happen quick. So all I'm saying is there is a way out, and there is ways to get things done, and there's ways to live your life if you want to, but it's a choice that you've got to make. And yes, you're going to make people unhappy, and yes, you're going to rock the boat a bit. But if there's one thing I've learned in the past couple of years, is that keeping other people happy at the expense of your own happiness is just hating on yourself. That's actually self-hatred, because at that point you are living for others and you're not living your own life. And if you go your whole life like that, all that's going to happen is you're going to build up so much resentment because you could have done this or you should have done this but you didn't, and you were stuck in this situation for such a long time, and you develop this toxic mentality because you're around this toxicity and this negativity, and you're going to grow up to be a very bitter you know, these very bitter old women or men or whoever, old people that are bitter. Why are they bitter? Because they have mad amounts of resentment built up from the years that they were living for others and they weren't doing what they wanted to do, and they felt like they had no choice, and they felt like they were a victim in life and all these things were just happening to them, and they never actually made their own path and made things work out for themselves. They just let life happen to them, and then they grew resentful and bitter, and then they turned into these miserable old people that are just like really nitpicky and negative and just like spew hatred for the most random reasons. How do you think people get like that? They get like that because of these decisions that they make earlier on in life, and then they become stuck, and then they're stuck in this routine of just being negative and full of toxicity because that's all they know. Do yourself a favor and get out of that. Get out of it. Mentally check out, at least. Even if you can't physically leave the environment, mentally check out and stop letting yourself be affected by it. And I know it's so hard to say that, which is why I say the physical distance is like the main way to overcome it. And that doesn't mean never see your family again. I'm just saying create some distance so that you have autonomy over your own life, and you can visit and you can see them as and when. And at that point, even if they feel the need to still comment on what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're behaving, and they want to still control these aspects of your life, they actually physically can't, because they don't live with you and they're not around you enough to actually even know what's going on in your life. They'll only know as much as you tell them, and they really won't be able to have that level of effect on you mentally because you're not physically around them as much anymore. Yeah, I know it's a difficult situation and it's one that people don't like talking about. It's a difficult thing to talk about, but at the end of the day, when you're an adult, and I'm talking adult to adult, when you are at that stage of your life, you have to at some point put yourself first. You've got to do it, because if you don't, remember that bit of old lady we talked about? That's what you're going to become. So don't become a victim of life. Make your decisions and sit in the discomfort of those decisions, because it will be uncomfortable and it will be really anxiety ridden and it will be really difficult at times, and you'll feel really guilty and you'll feel like maybe you've made the wrong decision. All those things will happen, but on the other end of it, so much growth will happen, like beyond you could even imagine. And the aim of this life is to grow and evolve as a person and learn new things and develop as an individual. You can't do that by being told what to do every second of the day and how to live your life. You simply cannot grow and evolve, because how is any growth happening when your decisions aren't your own? Anyways guys, I'm gonna leave that video there. That was a bit of an intense ending, but guys, I've been through a lot of this stuff myself. Like, I really relate to a lot of what you ask me, and it might sound harsh what I'm saying, but I'm just giving the advice that I know has benefited me. And I really do feel like in certain situations, in South Asian families especially, you can't control the way other people are at the end of the day. You can't control their behavior towards you. You can't control their outlook on life, the way they think things should be done. Those are not things you can control. You can only control yourself and your own behavior and your own decisions. And if you are making the decision to kind of just roll over and let life happen to you and let other people make the decisions for you, even at the big age of like late 20s into your 30s, and some people come to me in their mid 30s and say, look, my parents still tell me what to do, I can't move out because they won't let me. What do you mean let? Let? How? Why? The word let should not be in your vocabulary at that point. And I know that sounds disrespectful and rude and all those things, but okay, then stay where you are. Do what you're told. Stay at home till you're in your mid-40s. Become that bitter old auntie. That is the trajectory that you're leading your life down, and I want to stop the generation of bitter old people, and the only way to do that is to follow your own path and like get through the hard stuff now and break away from that culture. That is a very toxic part of the culture. But yeah, I really hope advice I gave did help. Take what I say with a pinch of salt. Like, you know your situation better than I ever could. Like, when I read 3 sentences of what you're going through, it's obviously not going to tell the full story and it's not going to give me the full picture. And I'm obviously very biased in my advice because I will give it based on like my own experiences in life as well, and the decisions that I've made and how they have turned out. So bear all of that in mind. Don't feel alone in your situations. I really, really hope that it provided you a bit of comfort, even just to talk it out in this video, if I did make it to your dilemma. If I didn't make it to yours this week, definitely make sure that you check out my Instagram stories, where I will be posting a question box again for next month's video, where we'll go through some more dilemmas and talk about all kinds of topics. But anyways, I'm gonna love you guys and leave you. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye guys. Mwah.